Well, listen, I want to welcome all of you to uh, this conversation, this sacred conversation. Really, I'm so pleased that so many of you turned out. Um, it looks like we have a lot of tiles out there, and I see a lot of friends, and so I'm really, really grateful that all of you um, are making time on this Sunday afternoon to learn a little bit about this sacred tradition, this sacred ritual system, this sacred prayer system called Haitian Vodou. We have a lot of Haitian connections in our community, thanks largely to the work of Becky and Ted Crosby. Um, Jennifer, I know that, yeah, you represent Sister Cities Essex as well. And yeah, we're just, I think, really fortunate to have these Haitian connections. And what we want to do today is to take what we've learned about Haiti and to extend it and to go even deeper by encountering Haitian Vodou. And we're so incredibly lucky to have with us several really, really important guests. So let me start with Liza McAlister. Liza is a professor of religion up at Wesleyan. She has been studying Haiti and Haitian Vodou for, I said this morning, about 30 years, Liza. I don't know if that's right. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true, and unbelievably enough.
Yeah, well, so it is. So Liza is the author of this book. It's called Rah Vodou, Power and Performance in Haiti and its Diaspora. It's a fantastic book. I hope that some of you after this will go out and get it. But my introduction to Liza actually came in this book, The Sacred Arts of Haitian Vodou, which I was reading one time on a trip on an airplane coming back from Port-au-Prince, and I came across this essay called A Sorcerer's Bottle, the visual art of magic in Haiti, by this person named Elizabeth McAlister. I had no idea who this was. And I read this essay, and it read like a powerful detective story, tracing all the elements of this sacred art object, this ritual object, which was a bottle. And Liza did this powerful detective work of tracing all of the elements in this bottle and how they had come to be and how they made this sacred vessel what it was. I wound up coming home and going, who wrote this essay? Because it was a wonderful read. It was so transfixing. And then I looked up who Elizabeth McAlister was and realized she lived right up the road. And so I contacted her by email. Now, it is true that when random people, and especially random ministers, email strangers, those emails don't always go answered. However, Liza was kind enough to reply to my email, and we had lunch after that, and we've been talking here and there, off and on, and sometimes quite regularly since then. So, Liza, I am grateful for your willingness to be with us today. I'm grateful for your writing. I'm grateful for all of your wisdom and insights about Haitian Vodou, and we're really, really fortunate to be able to have you today. And then Jean-Daniel Lafontant. We see a little window right now into Jean-Daniel's world. They're in Port-au-Prince, in the Bel Air neighborhood of Port-au-Prince. Jean-Daniel is coming to us from the Nah-Ri-Veh Temple in Port-au-Prince. There we are. And we see there, Jean-Daniel is going to talk more about this, but we see there the temple itself and the main central pillar, the Poto Mitan. Anyway, so Jean-Daniel was gracious enough to allow me to visit Temple Nah-Ri-Veh some 2 years ago. And I spent a wonderful 24-hour period there and got to know a few members of the community. And I am so thrilled that Jean-Daniel is willing to be with us as well as some other members of the community who we will meet and be introduced to shortly. I see Respect there. I don't know if they can hear me, but we will go ahead and get started here before too long. Jean-Daniel, I mentioned to people earlier today, when CNN wants to do a deep dive on Haitian Vodou, or when the BBC wants to learn or do a segment on Vodou, Jean-Daniel is the person they contact. And so again, we are incredibly fortunate to be able to hear from Jean-Daniel today and to have this incredible opportunity to be in this ritual world. So having said that, I'm going to quit talking and I'm going to say thank you and welcome to both Liza and Jean-Daniel and all of you in the Nah-Ri-Veh community in Haiti. And I'll turn it over to you.
Ay bobo.
Hi, Bobo.
Everyone. Oh,
And warm
sorry.
Sunday morning. Please tell me if I'm too far away from the screen. I'll be delighted to come closer. But if it's fine, we can proceed. Is that okay?
It's mostly okay. It's a little bit muted, but it's mostly okay if you pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, evidently, internet is quite unstable. We're still on 4G or something like that. Not totally, but quite close to 4G. So, Guy is going to proceed by tracing the veve of Minokan, because it's going to be a very short ceremony for you. So, Minokan in the Rada rite, because we have multiple rites. Minokan represents all the Loi, all the spirits. So we will be tracing a veve for Minokan before starting with a small introduction prayer. It's going to be very short, because in general, it can last hours. But we're going to make it as short as we can make it.
Jean-Daniel, will you introduce everybody that's with you?
Yes, absolutely. Gali is a Houngan of Nah-Ri-Veh who's been here for many years, and is a Houngan Asogwe. And this is right here, his spiritual daughter, Mabo Asogwe as well, who has been introduced to Nah-Ri-Veh for the first time. And we are grateful to tell her welcome. Evidently, in the back, we have Mr. Ballon, who is a very good friend of Professor McAlister, who's also a drummer. She's too shy sometimes to say it. So she loves her brother and sister who are drummers, the Untongi. And Mr. Ballon is better known by the name of Kokome for life. Well, I'll pass on the translation of that, but this is his name, yes. So generally we have 2, 3, 4, or 5 drummers sometimes. Very rarely do we have one, but because this is not a ceremony, it's a small prayer to introduce you to Vodou, he will be doing what we call a wumble, kind of to salute all the spirits and the loi of life. And of course, we have members of the community that will be coming in and out. As for the festivity, we have organized, some food, because Vodou is always an occasion to party. So we don't only celebrate our spirits or loi, our ancestors, but we also celebrate life every time we get together. So food, and I'm sorry to say it, but alcohol is also a very important part, not only of the ritual, but of the tradition itself. So Gary is tracing a star with 8. Okay. I'm sorry, with 6. Okay, normally it would be 2 triangles crossing each other. I think it's the Star of David it's called, or an hexagram, but it's a star with 6 heads that represent all the nation of the Rada. And that veve is called Milokan or Minokan.
Jean-Daniel, when Gary is done, will you tilt the camera down so we can see the whole Veve?
Yes. In the meantime, I'm going to try to hook into Zoom with a phone because that might be helpful.
Maybe.
I've been trying unsuccessfully for an hour.
Oh.
So maybe the law will be in my favor this time. Let's see.
Isn't it true also, Jean-Daniel, that Minokan, did you say this? Minokan is a representation of all of the nations that are part of Vodou?
Primarily in the Rada rites.
Okay.
Quite often they say it's all of Vodou, but the reality it's primarily for the Rada spirits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. As we're watching Gary draw the Veve, I'll just say very briefly, I've been practicing drawing Veve for a little while, and what he's doing in 10 minutes takes me close to an hour.
But I have to tell you that Steve is simply amazing at drawing the Veves. I haven't shown them to Gary, but I will do that today. And I'm sure that he's going to be very impressed.
Oh,
Yes. He's been talking a lot about you and was hoping that you would be with us in July, but.
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
Yes.
But Gary is the master. And Jean-Daniel, again, while we're waiting, you've used the word Rada, and talking about Rada, the Rada spirits. Would you describe to us what that means?
Yes. Most of the spirits are spirits of the ancestors, and many of them are from Africa. And they started coming to Haiti, they said, before Christopher Columbus, but majority of them came with the Africans that were brought into slavery to the America and that were coming from different parts of Africa. So you will find spirits that are coming from the kingdom of Congo, or the kingdom of Dahomey, the kingdom, different parts of Africa. And I really like to say that Haiti, in its 27,000 square kilometers, is the microcosm of Africa. Because you find a lot of the spirit, a lot of the loi, a lot of the ancestors, a lot of the tradition of Africa in that tiny land, because we had African coming from every part of Africa and that were brought here into slavery. So they kept their tradition. And one thing that's unique to Haitian Vodou, it's the melting of all these traditions into a single tradition.
I'll just say a few words, shall I? Well, Jean-Daniel's looking for the camera, the right zoom. The tradition is also it's inherited, so that there's a lot of variety across regions and across particular congregations. And anthropologists such as myself have a tendency to write as if it's a whole unit of a tradition, the way the Roman Catholic Church, for example, as you all know, is very coherent and it's very authoritative and hierarchical. So it's possible to say that this is the position of the Roman Catholic Church on X, Y, or Z, or it's possible to say this is how the liturgy is run. But in Vodou, there isn't a centralized authority figure. And not only that, ever since this triangular trade and the enslavement of Africans brought to the island, it's been inherited through family lines and or through congregational lines, like society lines. So there is an enormous variety. And a lot of times, as an anthropologist of religion, I can admit that we get things wrong in the sense that someone will go to one hamlet and one community and write about their traditions as if this is all of Vodou in Haiti. So it's part of the resilience and the reason that it can help, that is really shored up Haitian survival and Haitian thriving under intense adversity, is that it is directly inherited, and it is flexible, and it's diverse across the island in ways that I think are not even appreciated yet. So what you're going to see today,
Yes.
you have to mute one of your. No. Voilà. Men diagnostic là.
Success.
One of the reasons that I forgot what I was to say, but what we're seeing here in terms of the way the space is set up and the way everyone's beautifully dressed is very much Port-au-Prince style services, but also Monsieur Jean-Daniel Lafontant comes from a tradition in the north. So there's a huge thread of this particular compound in the north where his family is from, wended through the practice there as well. Is that fair enough to say?
Absolutely.
You have to correct me and not let me get away with anything if I say something that's not entirely correct.
It is absolutely correct. Where I come from, it's a laku called Jisu. That is not far away from Wakaima. As a matter of fact, we have the arrogance of believing that this is the real site of Wakaima. And there are researchers actually that are saying the same thing. Yes, so this is where we are, but the tradition is very different from Port-au-Prince. Because where you have more the Radharite in Port-au-Prince, a lot of the Congo in the south, you have a tradition that's closer to the Mandingo in the north, and and I think that in many ways the Vodou is much more virulent.
Yeah.
And the Rada spirits are not celebrated in the same way either.
Interesting.
You know, yes. For instance, as Winifreda Daome, Kanwulo doesn't have the same properties of being whimsical and being kind of loving life, being a prima donna that we have in Port-au-Prince, for instance. As Winifreda Daome Kanwulo is much more virulent, and she's a warrior in the north. So there are specificities based on rites, but also based on the region, because each region had African coming from different parts of Africa at different period of time. For instance, the very first African that came to be enslaved met with the natives of the land and mixed their tradition with that of the natives. I am also convinced that a lot of the magic, a lot of the science, a lot of the pharmacopy of Vodou is inherited from the natives. For instance, the Veve, the intricate Veve, when we come in many regions of Haiti, you find the Veve that resemble the rocks sculpted by the Indians. That very veve that you see here has actually a native root because of both the snake and the star. So we believe that Milocan or Minocan, it's also a native heritage. So the tradition is as diverse and as rich as any, and it varies from one region to the next, from one family to the other, and you will go to a ceremony and actually not understand anything that's happening in that ceremony because the tradition is completely different from the one that you're used to. So Vodou is not, as Professor McAlister said, it's not a single tradition. It's multiple traditions as one because we recognize each other even though we each have our own tradition. And I think that it's extremely important to understand that because it's also a historical fact. Because for 50, 60 different people from Africa to unite and fight the French, they needed to have something in common aside freedom. So they developed that tradition, Vodou for all, what we call the 21 nation, the 101 nations, or the 401 nations. So we reunited to become one, and we created a language that is our own, that is Creole. So those three elements, freedom, Vodou, and Creole, is at the essence of Haitian culture. This is what makes everyone Haitian, even the 70% that are in denial. Because not everyone is a Vodouist here. And for your information, Professor McAlister, you certainly have that information. I was reading that actually the Protestant population has exceeded the Catholics in Haiti now.
Yeah.
They're saying that 53% of the population is now Protestant.
Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. But we are all Vodouism. So
Yes. So do you all want to proceed with a thing or?
yes.
Yeah, okay. So you might want to take me off the screen, off of the pin for a moment,
Sure.
you know, while that's happening.
Yeah. I wonder what's going on. Well, this is a Vodou, I don't know how to say it. Ceremony of some sort.
That was a short prayer to introduce you and to bless you on Vodou. So now we can really proceed with the discussion.
This is quite special, a multi-view, personalized Vodou prayer. This is quite amazing. I bet people have a lot of questions. I mean, this was, as we said, what people would do for an opening prayer. And it's a truncated example of something that would last many, many hours, possibly even all night. And during a ceremony that would last many, many hours, there would be a reason for it, whether a healing or a baptism of items or people, or a marriage, because you can marry the spirits if they ask you to. It could be an initiation. It could be any what they call action de grâce, a kind of thanksgiving. It could be any number of things, either cyclical, like that have to happen every year or every season, or event-based, like a spirit asked you to marry them, and then you're going to have a marriage ceremony. So the reason for the ritual could be many. So right now, Jean-Daniel is saluting the four corners. They would, the four corners, which of course always meet where the person is. So it's placing the person who's the servant of the spirits in the center of an intersection, like a point or an intersection, a point of power. And you're saluting the 4 cardinal directions, and you're thereby creating a point for where you're standing, which is a power point. As it were. And now he's taking this calabash with food that is prepared for one of the spirits. I'm going to take a wild guess. It looks like son poisson guédé marronné. And he's offering he's going to either has or will offer the food to the spirits. And folks are, you know, kind of looking on the way we are, but they're on the risers in the temple and we're in our Zooms. Jean-Daniel, what's in the kui? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Jean-Daniel? Maybe he's...
Ok. Jurico les pois noirs, pickles, banane pesée. Jodi a nou pas bien cochon, nou ba de ton petit poule.
Okay, so rice and beans, a little bit of hot pickle, a little bit of chicken. And they didn't have pork for today, but a little tiny bit of chicken.
And something important, rice and beans, but it's black beans, because this is what Ezuli Dantor eat. And I also want to mention that every single Loa have their own song, their own music, their own colors, their own food. So it's really intricate, what the spirit eat, and what they, you know, each spirit have their own identity. Each Loa have their own identity.
And to answer your question, yes, everybody would be singing. Whoever's there, it's very participatory. So whoever's there is expected to be participating by singing, clapping hands. Later in the services, there would be dancing, more drumming, and eating. So everyone participates fully. Now he's knocking on the door. C'est Ezili Freda.
Ezili Dantor.
Okay, this is the room of Ezili Dantor, one of the female divinities. And this is her dedicated spiritual room where all of her things are, that if someone is possessed by her or mounted by her or manifests her, they will come into this room and take things from the room to let her hold or to dress her in, because this shows that they're ready for her. They prepare a place for her. And so now they're preparing food and giving it to her in her room. And yes, absolutely, there's a certain order, very, very definite. It's the order, in fact, is called the règlement, which literally means the rule or the order. And you're supposed to sing 3 songs for each spirit in a particular order. But like we were saying before, the order might change based on one's own family tradition. But usually it's Legba, at first, who opens the road, and it takes certain general shapes. And it's a great question whether it's 2-way or 1-way communication, says Bob. This is one of the traditions where the communication is very clearly 2-way, and the spirits will manifest in direct ways by talking to people in their dreams, appearing in visions, but also mounting people or taking over their parts of their consciousness in what has been called spirit possession. And the spirit might possess someone and then deliver a message, do a healing ceremony, consume what they've been given to eat, or depending on the spirit, hang out and party with the congregation. Is that about right, Jean-Daniel?
That is exactly right. Liza, in many ways, I have to tell you, you're more an expert than I am. I'm more of a practitioner, but you're more of an expert. So, and this is why I refer to you so often.
I accept your flattering comments with great modesty, because of course, I'm not sure you're entirely right, but I'm glad that I have nothing to correct so far. Are there other questions at this juncture? Because a lot just happened. And I forget, to me, it sort of looks self-evident, but it's anything but self-evident. If there were a dance tonight, if there were, if this were going to lead into a dancing segment of the ceremony, then people would end up dancing all over the cornflower veve, and they would end up erasing it, but the purpose would have been completed, because the purpose is, just as Jean-Daniel saluted the four corners to make a point of himself where the action is going to be, the veve is also a point, and it draws the spirits down, as it were, and lets them know that they're being called and they're being, summoned and invited to eat or invited to dance and accept the offerings.
And of course, the veve in that particular case is made of cornmeal, because corn was always a very important part of the diet of the natives. But this is not the only flour that is used. As a matter of fact, we use all kinds of flour. We use cassava flour. We use charcoal. We use crushed clay. You see, like that. Sometimes we crush it and we use the powder. So it's depending on the spirits that we want to call in. We use different elements. And I also have to mention that the two most important elements of the spiritual trance, as we have it, for us to be mounted by the Loi and the Spirit, the two most important things are actually the veve and the drums. And sometimes I say the drums and the veve. Yes. So.
And yes, there are different veve. Each spirit has, as he was saying, has their own color, their own set of songs and rhythms and, qualities and sort of elements that they're dressed in, and they also have their own veve. So it's a very, very artistic, aesthetically rich tradition, extremely aesthetically rich. I mean, and this is a very interesting thing with the rise of Protestantism in Haiti that we were talking about. As you all know, the Protestants thought that the Roman Catholics were too elaborate, too focused on materiality, too intricate, too much wheeling and dealing, indulgences, too much stuff. The thing to do was sola scriptura, whittle it down, Jesus alone, Jesus and the scripture is all you need. And the church should not have a whole bunch of statues. The church should be, especially in the United States on the East Coast, minimalist. And so it's the opposite of Vodou, where there can be endless elaborations and innovations. So now, for example, just as a little example, there's a spirit who comes as she's thought of as a kind of a mermaid. So she has a woman's body and a fish's tail. And now people are getting those like Halloween costumes with sequins on them and dressing her in those and getting elaborate baths that she can bathe in. And it's just endless, the innovation and the artistry that people incorporate. I think in general in Haitians in Vodou have the idea that if a foreign element is introduced to their world, unlike a lot of traditions that are very much gatekeepers, like we keep out the foreign, we want to keep orthodoxy. In Vodou, the idea is more, they have that, they're using that. I wonder how they're using that. Is that powerful? Could we use it? So you'll see Hindu gods on people's temples, you'll see Kabbalah materials, you'll see all kinds of things. Teletubbies are big, you know, Teletubbies turn out to be a great power object. So people have an incorporative instinct, a Creole instinct of incorporating rather than creating boundaries of orthodoxy. And I think that's one of the other reasons that makes it so lasting and so flexible and resilient and you know, long lasting. And so it's definitely an evolving religion, as Ross asks. It's definitely evolving, I think. And certain technologies have been incorporated, such as it used to be people would send cassette tapes back and forth from their home village, let's say to Miami, if they migrated out or were visiting out. And now they will live stream on Facebook the ceremony that they might have recorded on a cassette. So there's a quite a lot of evolution and incorporation as a rule.
Yes, another point, not all the Loa are totally familiar with the technology. So for some instance, there was an Obu that came here and was absolutely disgusted at people using camera to film the Loa. And actually all the lights, including the lights of the camera, which is not connected to electricity, all the lights went off. And he was furious. So yes, technology is used in Vodou, but there is some limitation to it as well. And another thing that I wanted to mention, not all the Loa are ancestors. As a matter of fact, many of the Loa are actually animals. You take la baleine, for instance, the whales. The whales are also a Loa. And in Vodou, we live very closely with nature. As a matter of fact, the center pole here, the potomitan, it's the symbol of the great African baobab or of the mapu tree. So it's a symbol because we believe that the great baobab is actually a village in which the soul of our ancestors live. To go back to spirits not being necessarily ancestors, many of the Loa inherited from the natives relate directly to nature. And at times, I'm avoiding that subject because it's a subject that is so taboo. But in Vodou, we believe also in creatures that are not from this earth. As a matter of fact, we believe in creatures from above, creatures from the earth, and creatures from under the earth. Mm. And the potomitan, the great baobab, is a canal, it's a channel that allows all these energies, all these lois, all these forces to go from one dimension to the next. And talking specifically about the whales, there are about 1,000 whales that are endemic to Haiti. And they live in a very particular triangle between the island of La Gonave, Petit Gouave, and Pestel. And we wonder if these creatures, as a matter of fact, that we find designed in they are not hieroglyphs, they have another name, those designs made by the natives of Haiti and many other places. You see la baleine, you see the whale design, and in some instance, we believe that our Taino, or Lokono, or Awawa ancestors believed in those species as being Loa. And so do we. And we believe that those creatures are by far much more intelligent than we are.
Amazing.
Wow.
There's a couple of questions in the chat. Shall I go for it, Steve? Should we address those? One is, we have seen exhibits of beaded flags representing the spirits. How do these relate to the ceremony? And one, I can see one behind you that is just spectacular. Looks like maybe a Simbi, a Petro Simbi, I'm guessing, possibly. So I'll say my piece and then Jean-Daniel can correct and add. The flags are also like the Veve. They attract the spirits, and many of them contain the Veve for any given spirit. And generally a temple, if it's able to, will have at least 2 flags for the main patron spirits of the temple or of the society. And there are a couple of rituals where people will dance with the flag on their back for the priesthood, for Papa Loco and other times. And so those flags are emblems, like any flag, they're emblems of the society. What else would you add, Jean-Daniel?
I would add that Vodou has also a creative aspect in which the spirits allow people to develop new concepts that become themselves part of Vodou. As our energy constantly evolves, that very particular flag, which I love, is made by my friend Wesleyan, who was inspired by a spirit or a Loa that he never met. And the dream that he had was that the flag should be brought to the temple for members of the temple to put the final touch. And so we did. So it's quite interesting because the line of the Veve are very specific. We know what they are, but the colors do not align with that very spirit. So for the time being, we don't know that particular flag for what Loa or what spirit it is. Maybe it's a Loa to come. Maybe a Loa that's not born yet. We don't know. So that creative aspect of Vodou is probably one of the things that's part of the resistance of Vodou. And it's one aspect also that allowed it to evolve while being constantly attacked by the powers to be, whether they are foreign powers, different churches, local political powers, foreign powers. It doesn't matter, but we have resisted years and years of attacks that aim at destroying us as Vodou V, which means children of Vodou, and I think at destroying our culture, that culture of resistance.
Yep. I will go. Amen.
Amen.
Someone else asked about the leadership of ceremonies. Generally, there's a collaborative, I would say like a collaborative hierarchy. So there's the society is usually headed by 1 or 2 people. And then when they have rituals, they must be assisted by not only a whole congregation, but specific people have specific roles. So very often there's a song leader who specializes in sending out the songs, which are call and response, as you would know them in the US South maybe. And there might be people who are there to dance the flag, people there who have cooked for the spirits, people there who do a spectacular job, in particular with the Veve. And so that everyone has a role and they come together, but the main person, like in this case, it's Papa Jean-Daniel, he's the main leader of any given ritual. He might hand it over, as it were, to someone, but he's the head of the society, so therefore he's the leader of any given ritual by definition. But the way you know who's actually leading the ceremony in any given moment is to look and see who's holding the sacred rattle or the cha-cha, because that's the person who's controlling, as it were, the flow of events, and they control it with this sound, this rattle sound. What would you add or subtract about the leadership of ceremonies, Jean-Daniel?
Ceremonies are extremely regulated. That is.
You froze, you froze. Hopefully you'll come back. Did I freeze too? No, I think everyone else is.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
I think
This is the problem with Wi-Fi in Haiti sometimes.
yeah. Oh shoot.
They bumped out. Well,
I'm sure they'll come back.
I hope they notice.
yeah, I hope they notice and come back. So he was saying it's a very regulated, there's this ritual order, the règlement, and roughly speaking, the same songs are sung. It depends on what the ceremony is for. So funeral songs will be different from wedding songs, will be different from a Thanksgiving or a feast for any given spirit. But roughly speaking, the songs follow the same patterns and are from the same liturgy, the same, the same songs that any given congregation will all know, or they're regional, so everyone in the area will know. There was a question about spirit possession. It's been called spirit possession in the anthropological literature. In Haiti, people who actually are involved in this practice will say they are mounted by the spirits, or they're ridden or mounted. So there's a metaphor where the person is a horse and the spirit is the rider. So a spirit will actually, the idea is that the spirit takes over part of the consciousness of the person, of the servant of the spirits. And the spirit will do this in order to effect some sort of transformation in the real world. So the idea is that the spirits are living in the invisible world, and they can't do a certain number of things because they don't have bodies. So they enjoy coming and embodying people who are their horses, and they might bring a message to a family or a person, or they might come and do a healing. They might simply sit and receive food that they've been cooked for if it's their feast day. And the way that people describe it is that it's a little bit of a continuum. The deep trance experience is where people will say they weren't there. Like, I don't know what the spirit said when they were in my body because I wasn't there. And so in that case, the person always needs an interpreter who will tell them after the fact, well, the spirit Papa Ogun came, Ogun told you, that you should eat less salt, that you're having heart trouble, whatever it might be. And then the person will say, wow, I don't remember any of that, but tell my horse, or the spirit might say, tell my horse to eat less salt. And that's Ogun telling, the Ogun who's in Steve's head, that's Ogun telling Steve, eat less salt. So, but then the other end of the continuum is people talk about a kind of a j'éclaire possession, which sounds like it's kind of like a mild, like you're dozing, or you're kind of in a spaced out daydream, and your body is doing things and you're saying things and you sort of are there, but you're not really there. And they call that j'éclaire, which literally means wide-eyed or clear-eyed or open-eyed. So people can be in a kind of a semi-possession state. And that's the classic reported state is that people don't remember anything about it. So it's an altered, at the least we can say it's an altered state of consciousness, and it's, socially specific to this tradition, although other traditions also have spirit manifesting.
Can I jump in real quick?
Of course.
And I want to hang with this last question for just a tiny bit, because I think it's really, really important for for our audience here thinking about spirit possession. Liza, I'll ask you first, and to say, like, do you see or do you notice any analogs in the Christian tradition for this kind of spirit possession and what we're talking about? I mean, I immediately go to, St. Paul's words. It is not me, but Christ living in me, as an analog that we already have within the Christian tradition. Obviously, we're talking about something different in Vodou, but we have these very similar moments, I think, that allow us to understand something of what's going on here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would not have thought of that, because the Protestant analog that I see a lot is in Pentecostal traditions, where people are slain in the Holy Spirit. They'll prophesy, they'll do faith healings. They'll, in some cases, it looks as though they're really not there, and they, in the same way as Vodou, they'll kind of come to and be ministered to, like they'll be given water after the spirit leaves them. That's a very close parallel, I think. And I think that the traditions are actually, they have one of the same root sources, which is West African spiritual practice.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting conversation that I'd love to pursue more, but I'm gonna go back to Jean-Daniel and re-enter the space of the Nah-Ri-Veh Temple.
Gary and I were discussing, and he totally agrees with you, Elizabeth, because I have agreed with you too many times before. I wanted someone else, to agree with you now, and he agrees 100%. He says
Merci, mon cher.
He says that in the Pentecostal right here, L'Âme Céleste, etc., they have exactly the same type of manifestation. And he said that they go even further. They use the same practice we use in Vodou, as they give bath to people, special bath to cleanse them, as we do in Vodou, using leaves and natural elements as well.
Interesting. Yeah, Jean-Daniel, maybe you can address this fascinating question of how are Christians perceived or accepted by people who practice Vodou? Like presumably Protestants.
Well, everybody accepts the baths. I know many Catholics, many Protestants that's been bathing for years. I think that the baths actually are much more than being a Vodou tradition. It's a tradition of nature, which you find in many other practices. It's the power of the plants, the power of nature, the power of the leaves, because the leaves has the capacity to change the course of our life. It can even change our étoiles. Our étoiles is what determines our luck or our future. It helps us cleanse our body from negative energies. We very often there is the use of sage, for instance, by the natives, because the smoke of sage, the same way the smoke of incense, cleans the air around us and allow us to see clearly, because they allow the spirit within, the energies within, the protectors within to manifest, and they allow us to listen to them. As very often, the power is not really outside of us. It's within, but we are incapable of listening to it because our daily life or way of thinking becomes too logical for us to trust a voice that we are not familiar with. So a bath can put people in a state of not beatitude, beatitude would be too much, but in a state of wellness that allows someone to be one with the law and nature.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so bathing is a constant part of our rituals. It's a constant part of our rituals. And there are very specific periods in a year where everybody has to bath because it's a way for us. And it happens primarily in December during the Makaya period because we have to prepare for the new year. You know, so this is, and I have to say that on New Year's never start on the 1st. On New Year's always start on the 21st. It may have something to do with the different solstices, and that may be a reason why we choose to have 21 families of Loa that represent 1,001 or 401, you know, different families. But during that period, we bath to regenerate the body and the mind. I mean, of course, there are other type of baths. We bath sometimes with smelly plants because it allows us to remove bad luck, for instance. But those plants have very particular properties. This bath, for instance, would be taken with salt water, with water from the sea, because the salt itself mixed with this very particular plant has very particular effects on the body. And after those baths, that makes us smell like hell. Hell doesn't exist in Vodou, but that's okay. I'll use it. We take a bath that brings our luck up. Generally, we use flowers or perfumes or incense or extract of plants to bring our luck back. So bath is a constant part of our healing system, and we use it all year long for many different reasons, and primarily for curative reasons.
Yes. Yep. We have a question in the chat. Well, to go back a step, how are Vaudouisans feeling about Protestants, like converted Protestant, evangelical Protestants? And I'll take a stab at that first. I think Vaudouisans are opening and welcome to anyone on principle. So the idea is, as you come is how you will be received. So if you go to a temple with respect, as a, trying to make a bridge of communication with an appropriate, offering of something simple like fruit or a bottle of alcohol, the reception will be very beautiful. Unfortunately, a lot of Pentecostal evangelical Protestants are doing spiritual warfare against Vodou. They believe that Vodou is demonic and even part of the root problem of Haiti and the reason why Haiti has so many problems. And so they don't come with respect, they come aggressively, and in which case Vodou responds aggressively. So I don't know if you want to add anything about Christians being received in Vodou, Jean-Daniel.
Oh yeah, we don't worry about them. We let them do their thing. Because anytime they are sick, they have to come to me. They won't go to the pastor. If the pastor wants his church to be full of people, he comes to me also for help. So we don't worry about them. We only prepare because sometimes they are manipulated to come to our temples and try to burn it.
So we have to prepare accordingly, because also there is a brainwash that's being made. And quite often, Vodouism are perceived as the enemy. But aside from that, we let everybody do their thing, because we know at the end of the day, we are the banana tree. And the banana tree, if you look at the banana tree, you'll see that the leaves of the banana always falls on the trunk. So we are the trunk of the banana tree. The leaves, doesn't matter if they're Catholic, Protestant, whatever they will always at the end fall onto the trunk of the banana tree. So we are the trunk of the banana tree.
Nice. That's beautiful. And someone is asking, can you say more about who receives the spirits? That is, the horses, the cheval, who are they, priests or priestesses? Who receives the spirits in their head?
Everybody receives the spirits. The loi goes to everyone. Some people manifest the loi. They become the horse of the loi. They are unconsciously mounted by the loi. But everybody receives the loi. Every child in that laku, they receive the loi in their sleep. They receive the loi while they are nodding on a chair. Some receive the loi. They don't even know that the loi was by, but they get to the second stage. The loi is a constant part of our life, and the loi cannot be separated from us. Because the loi, as I like to say, many of my Vodou brothers and sisters get upset at me for saying it. The loi is not outside of us. It's within, and it's constantly there. It's constantly there to guide us. And we are in contact with that loi when we are in a state that allows us to be one with the loi. Whether in our sleep, even if we're high, you can get in a state where the loi would speak to you, and you would be in a stage that allows you to listen. Because the stress of everyday life also doesn't allow us to listen to the voice within, to our spirits, to our ancestors, to our DNA. We don't listen to our DNA because the ancestors are forever with us. And we don't only carry their memory, we also carry their experience. And that forever. So the loi are constantly with us.
That's beautiful. You said so much there. I don't know if we can even absorb it all, but I know we're almost out of time. Isn't that right, Steve? Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, we should probably wrap it up before too long, but we can take some questions. We can keep on talking a little bit and see where the conversation goes. But yeah, I want to be mindful of everybody's time here. But yeah, do you want to ask your question, Liza?
Well, there's a question in the chat about the totem pole. So Jean-Daniel, there's this beautiful carving up the Totomitan. It almost looks like a totem pole in native culture. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, welcome all. We're gonna talk for another 2 hours. Yes. The reality of art and Vodou is inextricable. We cannot take one away from the other, because most of us are inspired by Vodou, and quite often there's a lot of art because people bring it. I gave you the story of that flag.
I can show you other statues that are there that people simply bring because they think or they believe that those statues are for fairy spirits and that they cannot keep it, they have to bring it to the spirits. So quite often they will go to a temple or to a Houngan or a Mabo and offer that sculpture. Sometimes as a priest also, because the decorative aspect of the temple is important. Because by decorating, quite often, a decoration, and in that instance, a piece of art is quite often an emanation of the loi. So in some instance, I purchased items that I thought would fit in the temple because it would represent a particular loi. I have a very interesting snake. One is made by Jean-Daniel.
Oh, wow.
This is the totem that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But I will show you the snake. And I have another one made by an artist called McAlister. It's a bit bigger.
Wow.
So those snakes, for instance, they each have a story. The big snake, which is Aida, because the female part of the loi tends to be more powerful than the male part of the loi. And in reality, there is no female, no male. These are simply different energy. It can be the energy of the sun, the energy of the moon, the energy of the morning, the energy of the night. This is what it is. And what it tells you is that they are contrary energies. But to go back to the artwork that is here, the snake purchased from Eugène was a gift from someone that came to the temple, first to do some research, and second to do some work. When she got, as a matter of fact, before she got what she wanted, she was certain that she would get it. I was explaining to her that I had as an objective to design two snakes on the center pole as it is in all pedestal. So she purchased the snake and offered it to the temple. So that snake was the male side of the snake spirit. It's Dambala. It was purchased first. And Aida, which is the female counterpart of that snake spirit, that snake Loa, would not let me sleep. Because quite often there is a form of jealousy also between the Loa, as the emotion of the Loa resemble for some reason the emotion of humans. And Aida would not let me sleep. I could not stop dreaming about that very snake that you see there. And one day I went to an artist and I saw the snake. The snake was being made. I didn't have money. I didn't ask for the price, but I said that this is the snake that I've been seeing in my dream for maybe a year and a half. I'm going to get it. So I went there with very little amount of money and purchased it for a price that I could not believe. I mean, evidently the artist told me I had to finish it. I said, no, you're not going to finish it. I'm going to the temple with it right now. Because I knew that he would the following day ask me maybe for 20 times the price. But in that very moment, I felt the presence of Aida. She was there, and actually it was a gift. I'm saying I purchased it, but it wasn't purchased. It was a gift.
Mm.
So the art is a constant part of what Vodou is.
That's so beautifully said. I'll just jump in here by and simply say that it was art. I think that was my first encounter with Vodou, and when I encountered the art, it was immediate to me that I wanted to know exactly what this was about, and I wanted to go deeper with this. It was the art that first called to me and made me go, "What is that?" I wish to be a part of that in some way.
Now this is interesting, but I will add one thing. The art in a temple is not always sacred.
Mm.
Some arts are there for purely decorative reasons. Others are there because they belong to the Loa. And for an art to be part of the Loa, part of the not only part of the Loa, but belonging to the Loa and being part of the legacy of a temple, we need to perform a very specific ceremony in which the piece is named, and it's the same for every single drums that are there. Every drum has a name. Every drum has a godfather and a godmother, you know. And there is a very special ceremony that is performed to not only give a name, baptize, and render that piece sacred, but we also feed it, as food is an important part of Vodou.
Can we talk a little bit, Jean-Daniel? I want everybody to hear about the some of the struggle that Nah-Ri-Veh has gone through in recent months. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share some of that story, because I think it's very, very important, and I want our community to know what your community has been going through since September. Would you talk about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, fire is one of the most ravaging experience one can have, because the temple where there is a celebration, thank God, was not affected totally. It was only affected by 20, 30%. Like the roof that you see here, all this part burned. So we had to replace it with, you know, and you can see they are very dark, you know, because we had to replace it, and there is a lot of holes. When it rains, you know, we still get soaked and things like that. But the temple part was not tremendously affected. I would say that we lost about 30% of what we had in the temple. But a temple has, as an annex, what we call the laku. The laku actually is the living quarter. And the people of the laku, some of them are here, particularly the kids, not many of them, you know. The people of the laku lost everything they had. And
We've lost. We can't hear.
Hello?
Yes, good.
Okay. We were tremendously affected. The laku, as a matter of fact, the laku was not affected. The laku was destroyed completely. So all the rooms, we had actually 8 rooms where we had people living there, and in some instances, families. Everything was destroyed. Some of the family members had to be displaced. A couple of them were sent to Santo Domingo, but we had an opportunity to send the kids there, so we had to take care of that. But many of the kids still remain there. And that part has to be completely rebuilt because it was completely destroyed by the fire. And the Jevo, which is a sacred room, was terribly affected. The fire did not affect the outside of it, but everything inside burned. And of course, there's a lot of things that we lost, like the generator. You know, there is no electricity in Haiti. My car was basically totaled. So, you know, but, you know, I'm happy to walk. I walk much more than I ever did. But that's okay. But what I am really happy about at the eve of the 6-month anniversary of the fire, I think that the community has gathered around us. And I think that those of the Lakou that were tremendously affected, I think they have recuperated. All the children, they are back in school. A couple of them have developed a lot of rashes. For a month and a half, they could find no solution for the rash. So people are feeling better in that sense, because at the end of the day, in Vodou, all the material is important. But what is really important is life and being able to live. So the conditions are not really great, but we are dealing with it, I think, with a big smile and with a lot of faith that the future will be better. But what has been tremendous, and I say Aibobo to all those who really helped us, is the support of people. And I don't mean financial support only, evidently. I mean people, I had a GoFundMe in which people donated $10. Believe me, I was as much touched by people donating $10 than I was by people donating, I don't know, $200 or $500. It's that keeps us going and that gives us faith in our future. As per rebuilding, I am on the process of having a complete inventory of what was lost. I don't have a big interest in that, but I have to do it because, I have to send it to people. And most importantly, is to plan the rebuilding, which we have started. So yeah, we say Aibobo that no one was hurt, and we're still counting on people's help. Evidently, every small donation can really go a long way here.
That's really helpful to know. One of the things that I want to emphasize for all of us who are learning about Vodou little by little is that in addition to this worshiping community, in addition to the ritual work you all do, it's also a living community too, right? And so people live in that space. Right, and so when you say the Lakou was burned, that's what you're talking about, right? That the living spaces, the space for the community to live, was burned to the ground.
Exactly, it was burned to the ground. That was really a total loss. Yes. So all the infrastructural part and the living quarters were gone. So people lost everything they had. The facility was burned completely, and there was a miracle, as it always happened in Vodou. I know very few people whose house burned that saw the fire trucks coming. We had 4 fire trucks. No one could believe it. And without these fire trucks, the temple would have burned completely. So I think that the Loa were extremely vigilant, and they went and woke up the fire people to have them come here and do that work. And I'm still amazed by that happening because it's a rarity in Haiti.
One of the things that resonates so deeply with me as a minister, but I think with our community in general, is that our own faith community has burned 3 times. We have had three fires in the history of our community since 1665. I think it's 3, but the most recent one was about 100 years ago. But it's in our it is in our story as well. One of those we know we think anyway, was arson, but we don't know about the others. Yeah, Laura is telling me that it may have been 5 fires. There have been many fires. Anyway, what resonates so deeply is the experience that you're describing, and in a different context, realizing that it's an experience that these communities share, actually. So would you be willing to share information for your GoFundMe? Because I would very much like to be able to distribute that to our community.
Oh, absolutely! I will share those. I will share this information.
Okay.
Yes, as soon as possible, actually. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, of course. I just want to ask if there are other questions, or Liza, would you like to jump in with anything? And actually, Jean-Daniel, one more question on that note. Do you know, what was this arson or no? This was something else.
Well, we have kind of a council of the wise, a conseil des sages. So we had a meeting in which we had a choice between asking the Loa for what happened and not asking them. And we chose not to ask them.
Hmm.
So, because you see, there is always, in the middle, there is two sides always. By asking if it was awesome, quite often in the community, instead of gathering people around the building, quite often you gather people into a defensive state, which is less constructive. And that was our decision, to let the Loa solve that matter and us to move forward. So we did not ask the Loa about the reason. So somehow we don't even want to know. What is important is the chance and the great opportunity to rebuild, and to rebuild it with the community.
That to me sounds so profoundly wise. What you have just said about choosing not to go into the reasons. Liza, do you want to?
Yeah, I agree that it's a very beautiful and intense community, run extremely well, headed in great humility and great miracle by Jean-Daniel Lafontant, who manages to take care of a lot of people on a shoestring, but food, schooling, medicine, psychiatric care. There's really nothing that the temple isn't presented with. The temple doesn't always have the ability to intervene successfully, but usually it can do something, even if it's just supporting someone in their trouble and being a place people can turn to. So it's a very intense community and very beautiful in its multifaceted ways of life, ways of being and ways of life. It's really an honor to be affiliated with the temple and with the personnel there. And I'm very happy to see everybody there.
I want to
and
echo
to bring
that.
bring these two congregations together. It's really, really special.
I want to echo that and just say how what a privilege it is to actually even virtually be in Temple Nah-Ri-Veh right now with you, and to be with all of you in this particular space. It is such an honor to be able to do that, but that we were able to be a part of even a short part of the ritual saluting of all the spirits, and that we were able to be in Erzuli Danto's room with her, in her altar room, I think is an incredible privilege as well. And I hope that all of us, as we are gathered on our various tiles, understand how significant it is to be in this particular space and to have this world open to us. There has been, Liza, I mean, this is a whole other presentation that Liza can give sometime, but there's a whole history about the interactions of the Protestants with Vodou that has not always been pretty. And the fact that Jean-Daniel has been gracious enough to invite us to share in this space and in this moment right now and to offer this, I think is so significant, and I'm humbled by it. So I am really, really grateful, Jean-Daniel, and to all of you, I'm so thankful for your presence with us.
Yes, can I, if I say something, will they be able to hear me, Jean-Daniel?
Yes, I can hear you very well, yes.
Papa Gary, et mambo, bon mambo, et coco be pour la vie, ou tandem. M'a dit nous, aïe bobo, m'a dit nous, aïe bobo, merci, merci, merci de ce que nous paraître là, nous la prier pour nous, avec nous montrer nous espace là, et puis nous faisons un petit et fraternité, et puis merci mille fois, je suis content ouais nous. Tout le monde content. I'm telling them thank you so much, and everyone's happy to see them.
Allô, allô. Elisabeth, il compte avec nous.
Oh, respect, comment est respect?
Respect.
Ça va bien?
Ça va bien. Comment il est?
Nous pas plus mal, pas mal. Grâce à Dieu.
Jean-Daniel, I have one more request. Will you,
Yes.
will you take the phone and show us the flag that we're looking at behind you there?
Kokobe is really happy because, you know, he's being showed with the flag.
Wow, that is gorgeous.
Just beautiful.
Unbelievable.
And that is Nah-Ri-Veh.
Oh, Becky Crosby parle créole.
Yes.
Becky dit merci en pile Jean-Daniel. Moi, vraiment content d'entendre aujourd'hui.
Wow! La petite dans la communauté pour nous parler créole à tout le monde.
That is absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and what is interesting about it is actually the snakes. There is a relief. It's not flat like most flags,
Mm.
and which is one of the signature mark of du Reus d'Hérisson.
Wow.
Yeah, just beautiful. Just beautiful. Yeah, to have that kind of extraordinary beauty around you is a gift.
Thank you. Okay.
Jean-Daniel, can you unmute one of your phone? I think he accidentally muted his phone.
Jean-Daniel, can you hear us? Can you unmute?
You're muted.
Oh my God, I've been muted for a long time.
Just a couple minutes. That's better.
Okay. They wanted to start over. I'm like, oh. Okay. Can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It was, first of all, let me tell you, I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to bridge the gap, as I think this is the essence of our humanity, is to be able to connect and share our cultures and find in them what makes us all human. So it's really important to have the opportunity for us to talk about our tradition and our culture that is Vodou. We feel really privileged, and I'm looking forward to do the opposite with my community whenever Steve, you propose to do it to us, for us.
We will do it sometime soon. But I would love to be able to bring members of our community there, or to invite some of you to enjoy and come up to Connecticut and to visit us here. And you know, Liza can be a part of that too. But it would give me such great joy to be.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you to all of you once again. It is an incredible privilege for us. So thank you for all that you've given to us. It has been a gift.
Thank you on behalf of everyone.
Merci en pile tout le monde.
Thank you, Liza. Thank you. Thank you, Professor McAlister. Thank you for translating also.
Oui, pas de problème. Merci en pile. Et puis tout le monde que nous à la caille nous en bien, en paix, sans danger.
Merci.
Aïe Bobo!
Hey, Bobo.
Get home safely.
Well, listen, let the party begin.
Yes. Well, I think the party just ended for these kids. They've been partying while we were talking.
Oh.
You see? You see? Well, I wear. Okay. And they actually realize so much more. Like, you, man. Okay, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to speak to all of you soon. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jean-Daniel. Bye.
Professor McAlister. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And Liza, thank you to you as well. It is a gift and an honor to have you with us, and to have you share your profound knowledge from all these years of learning.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for the privilege. Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored.
Okay.
And thank you,
Bye-bye.
Professor McAlister, for being your superb self all time. Superb intelligent. Superbly
Merci.
intelligent. Thank you.
Di Kokobe fol suivre fol bon fait bon moun avec plus tard fol coopérative. Oui, Kokobe, entendem?
Oui, m'tendez, maman chérie.
OK, chérie.
One love, you come quoi même.
Ah ben nous là, nous pas pi mal. M'a jusqu'à de après ou.
D'accord, chérie, m'a regardé à votre maman.
Merci pour ti bat tambou fait. Pas bay monsieur problème, entendez? Pas bay Jean-Da problème.
Non. Pas de problème, non, c'est.
OK, c'est ça.
One love, maman.
One love.
Combien de commission là? Baba fait
Mais
la
oui.
parole. L'aptan commission coûte 5 capitaine la plus. Li dit m'ni on pas pour parler avant, me dit la relève sur téléphone par là pas sous pas dans la vie ça va aller. n'a pas aller.
OK. Bon bagay. Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone. We're gonna bring this.
Bye-bye.
We're gonna bring this meeting to a close, but it's been great to be with everybody. To all of you who tuned in, really thank you for being a part of this.
Mary. Elizabeth, yep. Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you so very much. Thank
Okay.
you for the
Merci,
privilege of
merci
having
en
me.
plus.
Merci.
Santé tous.
Merci.
Santé tout le monde.
Santé pour tout le monde, yo dit. Bon bagay.
Ah ouais,
Santé
merci.
pour nous tous. Thank you for the rumble of the drum.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
This is the respect. Thank you.
All right. Love to all of you. Love to all of you.
Love to all of you. Thank you.